Hey guys, tonight we journey into the narrowest, dirtiest, most lung blackening job Victorian England had to offer. You probably think you've had bad mornings. Maybe your coffee machine betrayed you. Maybe your cat stepped on your face. But unless you've started your day by crawling inside a soot filled tunnel the width of your ribcage, barefoot, underfed, and underage, you're still miles ahead of what's coming. Because tonight, you're not just waking up in 1842 London, you're waking up as a chimney sweep's apprentice. And no, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up on something that might once have been straw. Now it's mostly dust, mold, and the vague outline of a rat's recent adventure. Your shirt is yesterday's shirt, and the day before's, and probably the one before that. Technically, it's white, but really, it's the color of regret. You're 5 years old, or 6. You're not quite sure anymore. Numbers don't mean much when your day starts before the sun and ends when your body says, enough. There's no breakfast waiting, no toast, no porridge, just a kick to your foot by the master sweep, and a grunt that sounds vaguely like, up. The cold hits you first, then the smell. A rich blend of sweat, coal smoke, old boots, and the strange sourness that clings to places no child should have to sleep. You cough before you stand. The air is thick enough to chew. You don't own shoes. Your feet hit the stone floor, and the chill slices straight through your soles like a judgment. There's water in a chipped tin cup if the rats didn't tip it over. You sip. It tastes like something gave up in it. Your workday begins with a brush in one hand, a cloth bag in the other, and a pep talk that's mostly just your master yelling, "Move it, soot monkey." Your first job? House 3 streets over. 3 stories. 1 fireplace. 5 flues. One terrified little you. You arrive with the dawn. The city hasn't fully stirred yet. The fog is a thick soup of horse sweat, coal fumes, and yesterday's sewage. London doesn't wake up so much as stagger into the day. Inside the house, it's warm. The kind of warm that slaps your cold skin like a taunt. You eye the fireplace like it's a wild animal, because that's what it is. A stone beast you have to crawl inside and clean from the inside out. You tie a rag over your mouth. Not because it helps. It doesn't. It's just what you've seen others do. Then comes the moment. The master grunts. The housekeeper nods. The flue looms like a throat ready to swallow you. You lie on your back, insert your feet, and start to climb. Inch by inch, foot first, because that's how it's done. Head first means stuck. Or worse, your elbows scrape brick. Your knees twist at angles no knee should know. Your back arches like a cat under stress. And all around you? Soot. Warm, damp, endless soot. It coats your fingers, clings to your hair, and finds its way into your ears, eyes, and mouth. You breathe in. You choke. You keep going. Up, up, foot, push, elbow, twist, cough, push again. Victorian chimneys weren't built for children. They were built for smoke. The fact that children were small enough to fit in them was, as one chimney master once said, a happy coincidence. Historians still argue whether this coincidence was strategic sadism or just industrial oversight. You suspect both. You, halfway up, you pause. Because you have to. Not for breath. You haven't had that luxury since breakfast last Thursday. You pause because your ribs are pressing against brick and your knee is jammed under a bend. The flue narrows. Your breath fogs up the soot inches from your face. You're sweating now, despite the cold. And suddenly you realize this chimney was built with an angle, a twist, a cruel little architectural decision made by someone who never imagined a small child would need to climb it. You twist, you wiggle, you cough up a bit of something that looks like it belonged to a coal ghost. And you think, not for the first time, maybe I'll just live up here now. Eventually, after what feels like 6 hours and a minor existential breakdown, you reach the top. You wave the brush. You cough. You whisper a prayer to whoever watches over the soot covered and ignored. Then down. The descent is faster, mostly because gravity takes over and your tiny arms are too tired to stop it. You slide. You hit brick. You land in a puff of soot that turns the whole parlor black again. The lady of the house screams. The master shouts, "You apologize." And then you're dragged to the next chimney. It's not even 8 a.m., and this is your life. The master sweep is waiting for you outside, arms folded, pipe clenched in his teeth, eyes narrowed like he's judging both your performance and your worth as a human being, which in his mind are probably the same thing. You missed a spot, he growls, jerking a thumb toward the now smoke-stained sitting room behind you. You blink, still coughing up black dust, and try not to fall over. Don't just stand there like a dumb lamb. House on Mott Street. Next. Lady wants her chimney done before tea. And with that, he turns and walks, expecting you to follow like an obedient soot-coated duckling. You trudge after him, bag swinging against your hip, lungs aching in ways that don't feel poetic. The soles of your feet are numb from the cold stones of the street, but the numbness is oddly comforting. It means you're not feeling every pebble, every piece of broken glass, every sharp reminder that Victorian children were essentially considered disposable labor with lungs. The master walks briskly. He has boots, big ones, sturdy. You know this because he's kicked you with them more than once. But hey, they keep his feet warm, and he doesn't have to crawl into any chimneys today, so really, what does he have to complain about? You arrive at the next house just as a servant opens the door. She's wearing a bonnet and an expression that says, "You again?" She waves you in without ceremony. This house is bigger. 3 flues. Tall ones. Possibly built by someone with a deep hatred of children and a fondness for right angles. The lady of the house isn't present, but her perfume is. It lingers in the hallway, like wealth wearing a floral disguise. You glance up at the first chimney. It's wide at the base, but somewhere around the middle, it tapers sharply. You've been in worse. You've also gotten stuck in worse. The master hands you the brush. You know what to do. Yes, unfortunately, you do. Up you go again, this time more quickly. You've learned how to wedge your back just so, to push with your feet, to hold your breath right before a big puff of soot collapses onto your face. This time you reach the bin and twist with the fluid misery of a child who's done this 1,000 times and never once felt okay about it. Your arm brushes something soft. Feathers? A nest. Birds sometimes build in chimneys. You've seen eggs. You've seen bones too. You don't ask what kind. You reach the top, scrape the flue, and knock free a cascade of black dust that tumbles down like angry snow. You catch a breath of outside air. It tastes like coal, horse, and sewage. But to you, that's fresh. Then you hear it, the master's voice below. Stop slacking, because clearly you're up here knitting a scarf, not suspended 25 feet in the air with soot in your socks. You start to descend. Halfway down, your knee gives a little twitch. You're tired. You were tired before sunrise. And now your body's starting to ask if this whole being alive thing is still on the table. You drop the last 3 feet and hit the hearth with a grunt. Black soot clouds burst out around you, blanketing the room. The servant shrieks. You cough out a solid inch of chimney. Somewhere in the house, a clock chimes 10. 2 chimneys down, 3 to go. The master gives you a hard look. Then, oddly, a dry crust of bread. Lunch. You sit on the stoop of the house next door, legs drawn up, nibbling at the crust like a starving squirrel. It's hard, possibly fossilized, but it's food. Sort of. You think about water. You saw a pump back on Fleet Street. Maybe later, or maybe not. As you eat, you listen to the sounds of the city. Horses clopping. A woman shouting for her child. Bells. A chimney sweep whistling. Not your master. Someone older. From a different crew. You wonder what it's like to be old and still doing this. Maybe he has boots. Maybe his knees don't scream at every cobblestone. Or maybe he just whistles to drown out the fact that he's spent 30 years breathing Black Death. Historians still argue whether master sweeps genuinely believed this work built character, or if they simply enjoyed outsourcing danger to those least able to refuse. Either way, the children didn't write the history books. They were too busy coughing up soot. Your break ends before you even taste the bread. The master calls. You brush off your trousers, not that it makes a difference, and rise. The next chimney is narrower, much narrower. The house is old, older than the last, possibly older than your concept of happiness. The flue curves twice, then vanishes upward like a dare. You look at the brush. You look at the flue. You take a breath and climb. This time you get stuck. It happens so fast and yet not fast at all. One moment you're shimmying upward, the next your shoulders wedge between 2 rough bricks and decide, quite rudely, they're not going any further. You exhale hard, trying to shrink yourself. Nothing. You inhale to try again, and immediately regret that as a lungful of soot crashes into your throat, like an angry feather pillow made of coal. You cough. You squirm. You push with your toes, wiggle your ribs, twist your arms, and curse whoever invented chimneys. Quietly, of course. You're still trying to survive. The light above you is a thin slit. The bottom of the chimney is just darkness and the faint echo of your own breathing. No one's shouting yet. That's both good and bad. Good because the master hasn't noticed. Bad because the master hasn't noticed. Minutes pass, maybe more. You feel the cold of the bricks against your chest, the scrape of mortar on your elbows. One knee is bent painfully into a nook. Your other foot dangles, searching for anything resembling leverage. You try to breathe shallowly, calmly, like a little soot, yogi stuck inside the lungs of a dragon. But the panic is a creeping thing. It starts at your fingertips and slowly wraps around your spine like ivy on a gravestone. This chimney is old. The bricks crumble slightly. You feel flakes of mortar falling onto your back. Above your head, a ledge juts out unexpectedly. You hadn't seen it. That's what caught your shoulder. You try again. Shift, twist, exhale. Nothing. You're properly stuck. You call out once, then again. Your voice sounds smaller in here, like it's being swallowed. You wonder if anyone outside can even hear you, or if they'll notice only when you fail to emerge in a puff of soot. You've heard stories. Everyone has. Chimney boys who went up and never came back down. Bones found years later. A sweep who dropped his brush and reached for it and got caught, forever sealed in a flue like a dusty secret. Historians still debate whether such stories were exaggerated, ghost tales told to keep apprentices in line. But you know better, because right now you're living the start of one. You shift again, and this time something gives. A tiny movement, just enough to let your shoulders slip an inch. You take the chance. Push. Hard. The brick slices your arm. You feel warm blood mix with the cold soot. But you don't stop. Another push. A knee bends. A foot finds purchase. And suddenly, miraculously, you're moving again. Sliding. Sliding too fast. You tumble down the last few feet and hit the hearth with a thud that knocks the air out of you. Dust erupts like a volcano around you. You lie there, blinking, your limbs twitching like a puppet recently freed from its strings. The servant screams, again. It's becoming a theme. The master finally appears, silhouetted in the doorway, and squints at the mess. You done? You nod, barely. He grunts. Next one. Because, of course. Of course there's a next one. He doesn't ask if you're hurt. He doesn't ask if you need a moment. This is Victorian England, and you're a chimney sweep. Your job is to climb, clean, survive, and repeat. But your arm stings, and your legs are shaking, and you're starting to feel something unfamiliar. Anger. Not the tantrum kind, the deep, smoldering ember kind. The kind that glows low in your belly as you watch a world that treats you like a tool and then blames you when the job isn't perfect. You follow the master out into the street again, blinking against the daylight. You're so filthy now that your skin itches in places you can't even name. A woman passing by wrinkles her nose at you, clutches her shawl tighter, like your poverty might be contagious. You want to tell her, I clean the air you breathe, but you don't. Instead, you watch the baker's boy across the street carrying loaves in a basket. He looks warm, fed, still a child. You wonder if he envies your freedom to run the rooftops. You trade your soot for a crusty roll in a heartbeat. You arrive at the next house. It's posh. Marble steps, brass knocker, a window box filled with sad geraniums trying to survive the sootfall from the street. The master knocks. The butler opens the door, sneering. Late again. Fire ran hot. Your master lies, as smoothly as buttered coal. Had to wait for it to cool. You're too tired to care. Your back hurts. Your cut is still bleeding under your shirt. But up you go. One more chimney. Just one more. You pray it's a straight one. You stand in front of the fireplace like it's your old, soot-streaked nemesis. This one is polished, decorative even. A brass screen, fancy tiles, little iron tools lined up like they're in a military inspection. The kind of fireplace that's never actually cold because it's fed wood by people who never carry it themselves. You crouch and look up. The flue disappears into darkness, as usual. But there's something else. A bend. You can just make it out. A curve about 10 feet up. That means this chimney doesn't just go straight to the sky like a polite architectural feature. No, it winds. Which means it was probably designed by someone who hated both symmetry and small children. Still, you begin. You climb. This one's narrow, but you've been in tighter. You've squeezed through chimneys barely bigger than your head, chimneys so tight you had to exhale just to move an inch. This one's not so bad, at least not until you hit the bend. You stop. The bend is sharper than you thought. You press your back against one side, knees braced, and try to push yourself up and around. Your brush gets stuck first. Then your foot slips. Then your elbow cracks into the side, and for a second, you see stars, bright little flashes in the dark, like soot fairies dancing behind your eyes. You mutter something, something not church approved, and keep going. You push through the bend, your hips twisted, ribs scraping against brick. One more shove, and you fall. Not far, just a few feet, but it's enough. You land awkwardly, your brush falling past you and landing on the hearth below with a wooden clatter. You twist midair, and somehow you don't break anything, but you do bang your shin hard enough that your vision pulses. You lie there, curled like a soot covered shrimp, and then you realize you're not alone. There's someone in the room. You hear the clink of porcelain, the rustle of skirts, a muffled "oh," followed by hurried footsteps. The lady of the house, you presume. You slowly sit up, your hair shedding ash like a haunted tree in autumn. You look around. You've landed right in the middle of the parlor, on a white rug. A white rug. You don't need a sweeping certificate to know that rug's not white anymore. The butler appears in the doorway, face pinched, like someone's just offered him a warm cabbage. He glares at you, then at the master, who has conveniently waited in the hall. You said he'd be careful. The master shrugs. He's a sweep, not a ballet dancer. You stand up slowly, brushing soot off your trousers, which is, frankly, pointless. You're about as cleanable as a chimney. No one offers you water, or a chair, or a glance of human sympathy. You retrieve your brush. You try to smile at the lady, but she's looking at the rug like it personally insulted her ancestors. Then you're hustled out the back. Not the front. The front is for deliveries and polite company. You're neither. The next chimney is worse. A gentleman's club, 3 stories up, with flues that run like plumbing, twists, junctions, side vents. Whoever designed it probably thought it was clever. Maybe it is, if you're smoke. But you're not smoke. You're small, tired, and very much solid. The master waves you in. Try not to embarrass me this time. You nod, mostly because arguing costs energy. Energy you're running low on. The fireplace smells faintly of cigar ash and something pickled. The room is dark, heavy with wood panels, and the sense that no child has ever been welcome here. You kneel and start to climb. This flue is tight, the kind of tight that makes you question your life choices, even though you never had any. Halfway up, you hit another junction. A branching passage splits off. You pause. Is it used? You don't know. Do you have time to check? Also no. You push onward. The flue narrows again. Your foot slips. Your hand finds purchase in something soft. Feathers. Again. And something else. A carcass. It takes a second to register. But there it is. A long dead bird. Half decayed. Possibly an owl, based on the feathers. Definitely not recent. The smell is thick. A combination of damp soot, feathers, rot, and the sudden realization that you are currently more animal than boy. You gag. You try not to throw up. You fail just a little. But there's nowhere for it to go but down. You swallow it back. Historians still debate whether child sweeps received any training at all beyond "don't die." Some say masters offered careful instruction. Others say the instruction was "climb fast or I'll hit you." Based on your experience, the latter wins. You clear the bird, brush the flue, and make it to the top. You don't pause. You slide down, faster this time. Soot in your eyes, your mouth, under your fingernails, between your teeth. You land on the hearth. The room is empty. Thank heaven. You cough once, then twice. Then you fall to your knees and retch. There's blood in it this time. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve, but your sleeve is already so caked in soot that you're basically just smearing misery on top of nausea. You take a deep breath, well, as deep as lungs coated in carbon can manage, and try to will yourself back to standing. It's not easy. Your knees shake like overcooked noodles. Your stomach clenches again, either from the strain or from lunch, which, to be fair, was just a crust that tasted suspiciously like flour. And then the master is there, looming in the doorway like a grumbling thundercloud in a flat cap. He doesn't ask what happened. He doesn't check if you're all right. He just says, "You drop the brush again." You look up, blinking through eyes rimmed in black, and nod, because that's what you do. You nod, you get up, and you move on. That's the job. Your next destination is a townhouse with a chimney that stretches 4 stories up, a narrow, winding column of soot and smoke, capped off with a flue so tight it makes your shoulders ache just looking at it. The master hands you a new brush. The old one broke. He doesn't offer gloves. He never does. You've stopped hoping. You stand at the base of the fireplace, staring up into the black void, your heart already knocking at your ribs like it wants out. You press your palms together, just briefly. You don't know if you're praying or trying to remember what your fingers look like clean. Then you climb. This one's trickier, steeper. There's a bend 3 feet up, then a long vertical shaft. The bricks here are crumbling slightly. Flakes fall into your eyes. You blink hard and push through. 10 feet, 15. Your hands burn, your knees feel raw. Then crack. A sudden shift. One of the internal ledges has given way. Not a lot, just enough to throw you off balance. And down you go. You don't fall far, a couple of feet, but it's enough to make your spine lurch and your ankle twist sideways into a tight groove between bricks. You cry out, sharp, involuntary. The sound echoes up the chimney like a ghost's yelp. You lie still for a moment, ears ringing. Then you smell it. Smoke. No. No, no, no. You freeze. You sniff again, deeper this time. And yes, smoke. Fresh. Warm. Alive. Someone has lit a fire downstairs. You shout, "Oi, I'm up here!" Nothing. The smoke rises, slow and swirling. It licks your face. Gently at first, like a warning. You scream again. "Stop the fire!" Still nothing. Then you hear it crackling. Not the distant crackling of a far-off hearth. The hungry, hissing whisper of flame just below. Your body moves before your mind catches up. You twist. Yank your ankle free. It scrapes painfully, but adrenaline is a marvelous thing. You slide down the shaft, elbows banging against bricks, skin tearing. You land hard on the hearth just as the first flames lick the base of the flue. The fire crackles, unbothered, cheerful even, like it didn't just try to cook you. You roll out onto the rug, covered in soot, trembling, coughing so hard your ribs feel like they might crack next. The maid screams. The butler appears, horrified. "Why on earth were you still in there?" You don't answer. You can't. You're coughing too hard. The master's voice booms from outside. "Is he done yet?" You want to throw something at him. Historians still argue whether accidental fires, with boys still inside, were rare or merely unreported. After all, dead chimney boys couldn't file complaints, and servants were usually too frightened to tell the truth. You lie there for a while, gasping on the rug. The fire crackles in the fireplace. It's a pleasant sound. If you forget what it almost did, eventually, the master appears, peeks in, and grunts. "You all right?" You manage a thumbs up. Barely. "Good. Got 2 more today." Of course you do. You walk out of the house a little slower this time. Your ankle aches. Your lungs burn. You smell like scorched nightmares. You limp past a shop window. Your reflection stares back. A small ghost child, wrapped in soot, with eyes too old for the face they sit in. You barely recognize yourself, and you're not even halfway through the day. Lunch arrives in the form of a cold, flour dusted potato handed to you with all the ceremony of a brick. The master doesn't sit. He leans against a post, picking his teeth with a twig, watching the world like it owes him money. You find a bit of curb that isn't actively wet and sink onto it, cradling your lunch like it's a prize. The potato is hard, possibly raw. It's the kind of meal that makes you nostalgic for yesterday's crust. Still, you eat because your stomach doesn't care about temperature or texture or dignity. It cares about not being empty. And right now, the only thing between you and a fainting spell is a lumpy root vegetable and some very fragile pride. A few feet away, another sweep walks past. He's older, maybe 10, practically a grown up in your eyes. He nods at you, his face smudged, hair stiff with ash. You nod back. There's a sort of unspoken camaraderie among you soot children. You don't talk much. Talking wastes breath, but you know each other. By the way you walk slightly hunched, by the way you cough like you're 80, by the way you check every chimney before climbing it like a soldier scanning for traps. You rest your back against a wall, close your eyes for just a moment, and then the master throws a brush at your feet. Time's up. Fancy house next. Of course, fancy. You trudge after him, potato still clutched like a sad little souvenir. The house is tall and wide, with wrought iron gates and a door that probably cost more than your master earns in a year. The lady of the house greets you at the threshold. Not the master, you. She peers at you, eyes squinting, lips pursed like she's tasting something sour just by looking at you. You're very small, she remarks, as though you're a sofa she's thinking of returning. You offer a tight nod, your mouth's full of potato. Not that she waits for a reply. This chimney is very delicate, she says, leading you through a drawing room so pristine you feel like you're contaminating the air just by breathing it. No scuff marks on the tile, no soot on the rug, no banging. You nod again. At this point, you've mastered the nod. It's your most useful communication tool. I hear you. I don't like this, but I'm going anyway. The fireplace is absurd. Decorated with little statues, porcelain dogs, a basket of dried flowers. The sort of arrangement that screams, I have servants who dust this for me. You clear it carefully and begin the climb. This flue is tight, as always, but it's cleaner. Not clean, mind you, just less terrifying. The kind of chimney that sees occasional use, but mostly exists to impress people during parties. You climb quickly, grateful for the relative ease, until the flue shifts. There's a sudden drop, a connecting passage, maybe to another flue, and your foot goes right through it. Your leg vanishes. Your whole body pitches forward. You brace just in time, but your shin scrapes hard against brick, and your other knee slams into something sharp. You grit your teeth, keep climbing. You reach the top and give the brush the customary waggle. No one's watching. You do it anyway, then back down. The descent is easy until your hand catches on something lodged in the wall. A nail, a bit of bent metal, doesn't matter. It slices your palm clean open. Warm blood trickles through your fingers, sticky and immediate. You suck in a breath and keep going. By the time you hit the hearth, your hand is trembling. The master glances at you. What now? You hold out your palm. He squints, shrugs. Wrap it. With what? You tear a strip from the lining of your already shredded shirt and tie it around the wound. It's not sterile, it's not dry, but it's something. Victorian chimney sweeps often suffered minor injuries that became not so minor infections. Historians still argue how many of them died from blood poisoning, but considering the complete lack of bandages, doctors, or care, the answer is probably a lot. The lady inspects the room, finds one speck of soot on her white hearth tiles. This won't do, she says. Not at all. The master pushes you forward. Wipe it. So you kneel, hand bleeding, body shaking, and clean a floor that cost more than you ever will. Outside again, the city swirls around you. Horse carts clatter past, spilling hay. A man with a top hat barks at a flower girl. A child chases a hoop with more energy than you'll feel in a lifetime. You eat the last of your potato. It tastes like pocket and regret. Then the master claps his hands. Ready? You nod, because that's what you do. The next house is different. It looks like something out of a fairy tale, if the fairy tale was written by someone who'd only ever heard rumors of happiness. The building leans slightly to one side, as if unsure whether to stand or sit. The windows are dusty. The garden, such as it is, consists of one heroic cabbage and a daisy that seems to be rethinking its life choices. Inside, it smells like old paper, boiled onions, and the vague shadow of a cat that may or may not still be alive. The housekeeper is a small woman with sharp eyes and a voice like knitting needles. Fireplace ain't been swept since the war, she says. Which war? I don't recall. You nod, trying not to breathe through your nose. The hearth yawns open before you, wider than usual, but somehow less welcoming. There's a heaviness in the air. Not just soot, something else. Like the flu has been holding its breath for 20 years and is about to exhale in your face. You tie your cloth mask again. Not that it'll help. It's more ceremonial at this point, like saluting before jumping off a cliff. You crouch and begin your ascent. At first, it's oddly easy. The brickwork is rough but familiar. The soot is thick, but it moves aside without much fight. You're starting to think this might be the easiest job all day. Then you see it. About halfway up, jammed into the bend of the chimney, is a lump. A very large, very feathery lump. Your heart drops. A dead bird. Correction. A very dead bird. Its wings are folded unnaturally. Its body matted with layers of soot. Its beak open as if it died mid-squawk decades ago. You think you see the glint of bone beneath the feathers. Possibly talons. It might have been an owl or an overambitious pigeon. Whatever it was, it's now part of the chimney ecosystem. Possibly the landlord. You try to push past it, but it won't budge. You nudge it again, gently, like you're apologizing. Still nothing. You consider your options. 1. Go back down and tell the master. Risk being called lazy, dramatic, or delicate. 2. Remove it yourself. Risk discovering what internal bird goo smells like when slow baked for several winters. Option 2 it is. You brace one hand on the brick and reach out with the other. You touch it. It crackles. You recoil. Not from fear, from the texture. It crumbles like burnt paper. A puff of ancient bird dust explodes into your face. You cough violently. Your mask catches none of it. You blink through tears as the world goes gray. And then you sneeze. Loudly. Twice. The bird moves. It slumps, shifting downward slightly, which would be encouraging, if not for the fact that something else moves with it. Something smaller. You squint. Maggots. Tiny. Writhing. Alive. You gag so hard your ribs hurt. You think you might cry, but your eyes are too busy trying not to fall out of your head from sheer disgust. Historians rarely discuss the parasitic ecology of long neglected chimneys, possibly because it's disgusting. possibly because no one wants to know how many sweet boys got worms without ever stepping in dirt. You take a long breath, resolve yourself. You push again. This time, the bird gives way, tumbling down past you in slow, grotesque ballet, wings splayed, body twisting. You hear it hit the hearth with a splurt that should not be possible from something that dead. Down below, the housekeeper screams. You finish the climb, wipe your brush with a shaky hand, and begin the descent, carefully avoiding the part where the bird used to live. You emerge from the hearth like a demon escaping a tomb. The housekeeper is standing 10 feet away, eyes wide, clutching a broom like she's going to knight you or bludgeon you, depending on what you say next. You nod awkwardly and step over the remains of the bird, which now resembles a particularly aggressive puddle. She glares at the master. That weren't in the agreement. He shrugs. Extra filth's extra charge. You don't get a bonus, of course. Outside again, the air is fresher, but not by much. Your stomach still churns. You can taste feathers in your throat. You don't want to know why. You glance at your arm. The scratch from earlier has swollen slightly. Your blood feels slow, tired, but you keep walking. Because the day's not over. Because chimneys don't clean themselves. Because you're a sweep. And no one else is going to be coal. It's the reason your lungs feel like they're lined with sandpaper. The reason London's sky is permanently the color of dishwater. The reason every flue you climb is coated in an oily black grime that clings to your skin like guilt. You don't hate coal. You can't. It heats homes. It powers factories. It keeps the rich from freezing and the poor from dying slightly faster. But you can't love it either. Not when you spend your days scrubbing its filth from narrow stone throats and coughing up its residue like a dying kettle. This house, number 37 on Cartwright Lane, is a co-enthusiast's dream. 6 fireplaces, one on each floor. The lady of the house wears lace gloves inside because soot, she explains, isn't becoming on the wrists. You glance down at your own wrists, which are basically just soot with bones in them. The master talks with the housekeeper while you unpack the brushes. You overhear words like double sweep, hearth polish, and no scratches this time. You begin with the ground floor. It's wide, decorative, probably never actually used for heat. The logs are stacked purely for show, the way some people keep unread books or decorative apples. You climb, clean, descend, all smooth. Then the second floor. This one's trickier. The flue is angled oddly, with bricks sticking out like misplaced teeth. You bump your shoulder, scrape your shin, but again, you manage. The third floor is where things turn. This chimney is thick with soot, not the powdery kind you're used to. This is wet, clumpy, like someone poured soup down the flue and then decided to burn coal on top of it for a decade. You push your brush upward and it squelches. That's not a sound soot should make. You keep going. Your arms ache. Your palms burn inside the crust of grime forming on your skin. Your mouth is dry. You lick your lips and taste something bitter. Coal tar. It lines the chimneys in homes like this. The result of years of smoke, moisture, and chemistry doing an uncomfortable little waltz. It sticks to your hands, your tools, your lungs, and it's carcinogenic. Of course, no one knows the word yet. Not really. But chimney sweeps, like you have already begun to die from soot warts, a polite euphemism for the world's first documented occupational cancer. Historians still debate whether doctors truly understood the connection at the time, or if they just thought children were built with a shorter warranty. You reach the top, cough so hard, your chest cramps, and begin the descent. The soot rains down in chunks now. You try to stay ahead of it, but it clings to your clothes, your face, the inside of your mouth. You land in the hearth like a coal dusted sack. The housemaid screams. You're ruining her rug again. You stagger to your feet, barely able to see. The master hands you a cloth. Wipe off before the next one. She's fussy. You rub at your face until the rag comes away, looking like it fought a chimney and lost. Fourth floor. Fifth. By the time you reach the sixth chimney, your legs feel like damp rope. You climb slower. Each push of the brush feels like lifting a piano with your teeth. You feel your skin cracking under the grime. Your hands are stiff, cold. Even the sweat under your cap feels like ash. You clean the final chimney with your eyes half shut. And then, disaster. Your brush gets stuck. You tug. Harder. Nothing. The soot has formed a kind of glue around the bristles. You twist. Yank. The handle snaps. You stare at the stub in your hand, then up at the narrow throat above you, where the brush is now permanently entombed. You descend like a man who knows the guillotine is waiting. The master stares at the broken handle. That was new. You say nothing. He sighs. I'll have to go up there tomorrow and cut it loose. That's your job for making a mess of it. You nod, because of course. Outside, the fog is thicker now. Not quite mist, more like breathable soup. London, in coal burning season, is a special kind of gray, a color that's not just visual, but physical. You feel it in your teeth, your eyes, the folds of your clothes. You pass another sweep in the street, his face black with grime, his cough rough like torn cloth. He doesn't say hello, just nods once. A quiet act of solidarity, the universal language of the overworked and underwashed. You wonder what your lungs look like inside, probably like the flue you just climbed, dark, sticky, lined with things best not named. But there's no time for wondering. There's always another chimney, and you're still small enough to fit. You wake the next morning, or more accurately, you're nudged into motion with the toe of a boot. The master sweep's wake-up call is as gentle as a tossed brick. Your joints ache. Your neck is stiff. Your back has formed a permanent question mark. There's no bath, no change of clothes, just the same shirt, now more crust than cotton, and a pair of trousers that have begun to stiffen in protest. You smell like burnt toast and hard labor. It would almost be funny if it weren't you. Today's first chimney is mercifully short. Just one floor, wide flue, straightforward climb, but your knees still protest with every move. It's not just soreness anymore. It's something else. You pull up your trousers to examine your leg. Right around the kneecap, there's a purplish patch of skin, shiny and tender, puffed up like a blister, but harder. It hurts to touch. Hurts more not to touch. Ah, yes, you've got chimney knee. It sounds made up, like a children's book villain or a knockoff horror movie, but it's very real. A combination of repeated scraping, pressure, infection, and exposure. The result of pressing your legs against abrasive, soot-covered bricks for hours each day. Add that to the constellation of minor injuries dotting your body. Burns on your elbows, splinters in your palms, the raw spot behind your ear where the soot collects and refuses to be scrubbed away. Then there's the wart, lower down, a small angry lump near your inner thigh. You've tried not to think about it. You hope it's just a boil. But you've heard the older boys whisper about soot wart, the cruel badge of the sweep. Some boys call it the devil's blister. Others, more morbid, call it the scrotum's revenge. Either way, it's painful, and it's not going away. Historians eventually gave it a formal name, chimney sweep's carcinoma, the world's first documented link between occupational exposure and cancer. caused by prolonged contact with coal tar. You, of course, don't know that. All you know is that it stings when you move, and it's hard to explain why. You rub your knees, stretch your shoulders, and push through the pain. The master is impatient today. There's a wedding nearby, lots of fires being lit, guests to be warmed. Rich people want their chimneys to smell clean, even if they aren't. You arrive at the next house. It's newer, built with sharper angles and less charm. The lady greets you in a bustle so wide she blocks the doorway. Her voice is high and clipped. Try not to break anything this time. This again. You manage a neutral expression. It's the best you can do. You want to say, I'm not breaking things. I am the thing that gets broken. But you don't, because your job isn't to be heard. It's to be quiet, quick, and invisible. Inside the parlor, the fireplace has a curved hearth and white tile. White tile, of course, designed by someone who clearly hates chimney sweeps on a personal level. You start the climb. It's a long one, narrow, with a twist at the top that seems custom built for spinal misalignment. Halfway up, your leg cramps. You press against the brick, trying to stretch it mid climb. Your body isn't cooperating today. The wart stings. Your knee feels like it's growing a second angrier knee on top. You keep going. At the top, the brush won't push past a ledge. You jam it harder. It finally gives, and a cascade of soot rains down, coating your face, getting in your mouth. You cough violently, a deep rattling cough that tastes like iron. Your nose bleeds, just a little. You wipe it on your sleeve, which at this point is indistinguishable from the wall. You descend. You hit the hearth hard. The tiles, mercifully, don't crack. The lady eyes you like a beetle on her upholstery. Wipe your feet. You want to tell her that your feet haven't been clean since your 4th birthday, that your shoes are just suggestions, that wiping them would be like brushing mud off a swamp. But you nod. Wipe them anyway, with a rag that's dirtier than the floor. You move on. The master seems unimpressed. Pick up the pace, he mutters. You're dragging. You want to scream, I am 14 chimneys, deep in soot, disease, and disappointment. But your throat's too raw for speeches. And so you press on, soot knee, soot wart, soot everything. Because no matter how many things your body starts to reject, skin, lungs, dignity, you're still small enough to climb. And that's all that matters. You don't remember when the itching started. Not the casual kind, like a flea bite or a bit of straw down your collar. No, this is a deep, angry, unreachable itch. The kind that feels like it's behind your ribs, in your bones. You scratch, absently, then furiously, then with the kind of determination that could strip paint off a wall. It doesn't help. The master notices. You got lice again? You shrug. Possibly. Could be soot mites. Could be some Victorian variant of misery with legs. Doesn't matter. Still gotta climb. You reach today's second house by noon. It's a grand townhouse, the kind that smells like boiled beef and polish. The butler opens the door with a raised eyebrow, looks you up and down like you're something scraped off his boot, and steps aside. You'll be doing the drawing room flu. It smokes. Of course it does. You're here, aren't you? You kneel before the hearth, already coughing just looking at it. This one's been used heavily and recently. The walls are black and sticky. There's a faint heat still lingering near the base. Someone didn't wait long after breakfast to call the sweep. You climb anyway. The soot here is thicker than ever, tar-like, warm, clinging. It coats your hands, your face, your tongue. You start to lose track of where you end and the chimney begins. Then comes the smell. Not just smoke, not just coal, something else. Something sharp, chemical. You pause. You've smelt this before. Once, in an industrial chimney attached to a printing house. Tar distillate, creosote, the invisible monster that coats your insides and rots you from within. You breathe shallow, but the flue forces it in. At the top, you brush feverishly. You want out. You descend quickly, too quickly. Your foot slips. You fall. It's only a short drop, but your side slams against the bricks. Hard. A thump echoes down the chimney. Then a sharp pain blooms in your ribs like a sudden winter frost. Breathing becomes an exercise in compromise. You limp out of the fireplace on hands and knees, face black, mouth full of soot, gasping like a fish on a rug. The butler sighs. Did you get it all? You nod despite not knowing. The master leans in. You're slow today. You stand. Slowly. Carefully. Something in your side twinges. Not broken. Probably. Just insulted. You make it to the next house by late afternoon. The flue is narrow again, and you hesitate. It's barely wider than your shoulders. Your ribs still throb. You press your hand to your side. Flinch. Go on, the master says. You obey. This time, you climb with one arm tighter against your chest, moving slower, more deliberately. Halfway up, it happens. The coughing. Not the usual dry hacking sweeps cough. This one comes from somewhere deeper. Wet, rattling. You feel it before you hear it. Like a kettle bubbling over. You press your lips together. Try to hold it in. It explodes out anyway. You cough and cough until you gag. And when you finally look down, your palm is flecked with red. Not soot. Blood. You stare at it. Smear it with your thumb. It blends with the grime like it was always meant to be there. Congratulations. You've officially earned the full sweeps experience. Soot on the outside, blood on the inside. You finish the chimney anyway, because what else do you do? Back on the street, you wipe your face with your sleeve. Another boy calls across the square. You all right? You nod instinctively. He shrugs. My cousin coughed like that. Died last winter. Chest rot. Historians today call it tuberculosis or coal-induced pneumoconiosis. You just call it the black inside. You walk on. The master doesn't ask. He's already talking about tomorrow. You catch bits of it. Raleigh Street, triple job. They've got a nursery flu. You feel your knees buckle slightly at the thought of another day, but you keep walking because your body still fits inside a chimney, and so, apparently, do your hopes, your childhood, and most of your future. It's Sunday. Technically, you wake at dawn because your body doesn't know what else to do. You sit up and immediately regret it. Your ribs ache. Your knee feels like someone shoved a walnut under your skin, and your throat burns from yesterday's chimney marathon. The master isn't yelling today. A small miracle, because it's the Sabbath. And in theory, this is your day off. In practice, it's a confusing blur of not quite rest and definitely not play. You're not cleaning chimneys today, probably, but you're not relaxing either. Victorian rest days for a sweeps apprentice include fetching water, cleaning the brushes, boiling rags, and occasionally scrubbing the master's boots. A leisure day. If your idea of leisure involves soot, scolding, and no food until the brushes are sorted. Still, it's a change. And change feels almost like relief. The master lets you eat early today. A whole bowl of something vaguely oatmealish. If oatmeal had given up halfway through being food, you eat it in 3 mouthfuls. It's warm, which is enough to make you emotional. Then comes the part of Sunday you dread even more than flus. Church. You walk behind the master in a procession of other boys, all limping slightly, all coughing like chimney shaped accordions. Your shirt is tucked, your boots, if you have them, are brushed, and you're expected to look pious, humble, and grateful. Church, of course, is for saving souls, especially dirty little ones like yours. The priest talks about sin, repentance, salvation. You sit at the back, barely listening, because you're too busy trying not to fall asleep sitting up, or pass out, or both. People glance at you with a mix of pity and superiority. One woman hands you a coin. You take it. It's warm from her glove. It might be the only coin you touch this week. After service, there's a sweeps parade, a local tradition. The master likes it because it makes him look charitable. He marches in front of you, tipping his hat, waving at shopkeepers, pretending not to be the same man who once beat you with a brush handle for slipping off a roof. People throw bits of bread, coins, sometimes even sweets. You smile, wave, play the role of soot-dusted mascot for Victorian goodwill. Historians still argue whether these parades were meant to raise awareness or simply make the middle class feel warm and virtuous. Either way, you get a crust out of it. And maybe, just maybe, the parade distracts from your side pain for a while. After the parade, the master lets you rest. You sit in the alley behind the house, knees pulled to your chest, chin on your arms. The sun peeks out for a moment, shining like it hasn't gotten the memo that this is London and cheeriness is discouraged. Another sweet boy plops down beside you. You don't know his name. Doesn't matter. Sunday, huh? He says, wiping his nose on his sleeve. You grunt. He holds up a small tin soldier. Found it in a flue. Kept it. You nod. I named him Captain Wheeze. You laugh. A real one. It hurts your ribs, but it feels worth it. He offers the toy. You shake your head. Keep him. For luck. He shrugs. Luck's in short supply. He's not wrong. Back inside, the master's wife tosses you a bucket. Wash yourself, she says. You're scaring the cat. You nod. The water is cold. Always is. You scrub your hands, your neck, your face, anywhere skin still exists under the soot. You stare at your reflection in the metal pail. A pair of wide eyes. Gaunt cheeks. Hair matted with grit. You used to be a child. Now you're something else. The evening brings a rare treat. Nothing. No chimney. No orders. Just you and your straw pile. You lie back, knees sore, chest tight, but for a moment, you're still. A mouse scurries past. You don't even flinch. Above you, outside, the city rumbles. Carriages clatter. Fog creeps in. Tomorrow it all begins again. More flus, more bruises, more blackness in your cough. But for tonight, you have a name, your own, and a moment. And Captain Wheeze is standing guard, somewhere out there, watching over soot-covered boys who dream of clean air and warm bread. Morning comes too quickly. You were just starting to sink into that rare, strange state, what some might generously call sleep. Your limbs had gone heavy. Your thoughts turned to dreams that didn't involve ladders or shouting. And then, whack. A boot to the ribs. Up. You don't argue. Arguing wastes time. Time means cold breakfast, or no breakfast, or just the kind of look from the master that promises a bad day is about to get worse. Today begins with fog thick enough to drink. You walk through it, carrying your tools like an overburdened scarecrow. Your bag hangs from one shoulder. It smells like old fires and damp wool. You smell the same. The first job is in a bakery. Not fancy, but warm. Too warm. Bakery flues are a nightmare. Built wide and shallow, but they hold heat longer than anything you've ever climbed. The bread oven had been going since before sunrise, and no one thought to let the chimney cool before calling the sweep. You approach the hearth and hesitate. The bricks radiate warmth like an angry sun. "Get in," says the baker, as if you're the knob on the oven door. You wait, just a moment. The master notices. He frowns. "You want to eat this week?" You don't answer. You just nod and climb. The heat hits you immediately, waves of it pulsing up through the flue, wrapping around your chest, crawling under your skin like invisible fire ants. You grit your teeth. Sweat springs from your scalp, your back, your armpits. It soaks into your clothes and turns to steam. You've barely made it 6 feet up when your hands begin to slip. The bricks are slick with soot and moisture, a deadly combination. You press harder, but the bricks press back. They seem to breathe, exhaling heat with every movement. You pause on a ledge, trying not to panic. Your breath is shallow, controlled, a slow drag of air that tastes like burnt toast and melted shoes. You climb faster, knowing that every second inside this flue shaves time off your life. At the top, you punch the brush through the soot cap and collapse against the brick. Your shirt is soaked. Your knees tremble. You smell something, not quite burning, but something close. You realize it's you. Your skin has begun to blister, just slightly, tiny raised patches on your forearms, from brick contact, from radiant heat, from being small, expendable, and inside a literal oven. You descend in a haze, no real control, just gravity, soot, and sweat. You emerge with your face flushed red, hair plastered to your scalp, and a look in your eyes that says, "I met hell. It was slightly warmer than this." The baker nods. "Good job, lad." He tosses you half a scone. You eat it without chewing. The master inspects your arms, sees the blisters, says, "Should have moved faster." You want to throw the scone at him, but you're too hungry. You walk to the next house in silence. A butcher's shop. 2 chimneys. One of them above the smoking room. That one is worse, because the soot there isn't just soot. It's fat, rendered animal fat, mixed with wood ash, lining the flue like greasy wallpaper. You slide into it and immediately feel like a deep-fried ferret. Every movement is slippery. Every brick leaves a smear. Your shirt is ruined. Your skin, what little remains visible, takes on a gleam usually reserved for bacon. You scrape and gag and climb. And at the top, you find something new, a blockage. Not the usual soot cake or dead bird. This is a plug of hardened grease, packed tight with soot and twigs and, oh joy, a rat carcass. Possibly recent. You prod it with your brush. It doesn't budge. You jab harder. It shifts, then collapses. You are immediately showered in a slurry of fat, soot, fur, and regret. You do not scream. You inhale by accident, and that is worse. Historians still debate whether sweep boys were more likely to die from falls, suffocation, or disease. But after today, you'd wager the answer is all of the above, sometimes in the same hour. You slide down the flue faster than you intend. You land hard. The master peers in, raises an eyebrow. You're getting slower. You wipe your face with the back of your hand. It leaves a streak of grease across your cheekbone. You say nothing. The butcher offers no scone, only a nod, and a cloth. You take it. On your way out, you pass a dog asleep by the fire. He's snoring, tongue lolling, clearly having the best day of his life. You envy him more than you've ever envied another living creature. He'll never know what it's like to be a child-sized spatula for Victorian chimneys. You're starting to forget what your hands look like before they turned into charcoal mitts. The cracks in your knuckles are deep enough to echo. Your fingertips have lost all feeling, except when they're bleeding. Then they're very expressive, Today, the master gives you a choice, which is unusual and immediately suspicious. Two jobs, he says. One's a big manor with wide chimneys and lots of stairs. The other's the workhouse. You don't even hesitate. Manor. He grins. Didn't tell you. The manor's got 20 fireplaces. You blink. Still want it? You do, because the workhouse is worse. You once went to the workhouse to clean a flue above the laundry room. The steam alone nearly knocked you out. One boy said he saw a rat the size of a dog living up in the flue. Another said he saw the same thing, but it was two rats, romantically involved. You choose the manor. You'll take aristocratic neglect over institutional cruelty any day. The house is sprawling, red brick, ivy covered, the sort of place that has wings and servants and probably at least one ghost in a powdered wig. The housekeeper meets you at the servants' entrance. She smells like flour and tension. You're not to be seen in the front rooms, she says, and don't touch the upholstery. You nod. You're starting to think you might be invisible anyway. The first few chimneys are easy. Big flues, high ceilings, tall rooms that have never felt cold a day in their privileged lives. You take your time. Your side still aches. Your knee still flares up like it's auditioning for a medical journal. But the bricks here are smooth. The soot is dry, and the rugs are thick enough to fall on without tasting death. You almost feel competent. Then you hit the music room. Now, you've seen some weird chimneys in your short career, but this one is something else. It's got a double bend, a copper lining, and decorative flourishes carved into the brickwork that serve no functional purpose, except to catch on your elbows like angry jewelry. You climb anyway. The bend comes quickly, too quickly. You misjudge it. Your hip slams against the corner. Pain blooms down your leg. You grunt and keep going. You try to push the brush through. It won't budge. You push harder. Still no movement. You reach up to adjust it, and your hand slips. The brush handle jerks backward. The bristles get caught. You lose grip. It vanishes up the flue. Gone. You freeze. The worst part about losing a brush isn't the cost. It's the lecture, and the walking, and the climb back up to retrieve it. You slide down slowly, tail between your legs, soot in your teeth. The master is waiting. He sees your face. Lost it? You nod. He sighs. Again? You shrug. Flue's narrow. Caught the bend. He squints. Then uncatch it, which is Victorian for get back up there, Sherlock. So you climb again. This time without the brush. Just your arms, your legs, and your seething sense of personal failure. At the bend, you find it. The brush has wedged itself between a copper plate and the outer brick. You twist it, gently at first, then harder. Finally, it pops free and whacks you in the face. You curse softly, then louder when you realize you've started to slide backward. You flail. Grab a brick. Stop yourself. Just barely. You descend again, brush in hand. The master nods, unimpressed. Took you long enough. You wipe your nose, it's bleeding. Again. Historians still argue how many brushes were lost up chimneys each year. Some claim it was common enough to be part of the cost of business. Others say masters docked pay, even beat boys for it. Based on your experience, both are likely. You clean 10 more chimneys in the manor. By the end, your arms are trembling. Your legs won't bend properly, and you've started to hear a high-pitched whistle every time you breathe. You think it might be a lung, trying to surrender. The housekeeper gives you a half slice of cold meat pie as thanks. It's the best thing you've tasted all year. You walk home chewing slowly, savoring every greasy, savory bite. The master says nothing, but he doesn't shove you when you fall behind. That's the closest thing to affection you've ever received from him. Back at the apprentice quarters, you collapse onto your straw bed. You exhale. You've survived the day, and your belly, for once, is full of something besides soot. You dream of bricks, not houses, not castles, just endless bricks, cold, rough, squeezing in from all sides. A tunnel with no end and no sky, and somewhere in the distance, a voice calling you up, always up. When you wake, your body feels like it's still inside the flue. Your neck won't turn properly. Your shoulders are so stiff they feel bolted on. You try to flex your fingers and hear something crunch. Might be a joint, might be a small prayer escaping your knuckles. Today starts with rain. Not the gentle sort, the London kind, heavy, sideways, and always managing to find the hole in your boot you thought wasn't there yesterday. The master's grumbling about delays. Rich folk don't like fires in the rain. It makes the damp worse. And the poor can't afford to burn wood when everything's already wet, which means fewer chimneys for you to climb today. Which, weirdly, is not good news. No chimneys means no pay, and no pay means no dinner. So when a last minute job comes in, urgent, the client says, you're already halfway out the door. The address is unfamiliar. East Side, poorer district. The buildings lean a little more, and the children in the street don't play. They work. You see a boy not much older than you, selling matches, with the quiet desperation of someone who understands supply but not demand. You arrive at a tenement house, 5 floors, 1 chimney, but it runs all the way up from a communal fire below. Big, black, used constantly. You enter through a door that squeaks like it's warning you. The landlady waves you towards the hearth. She's pale, with eyes that dart, and a scarf wrapped twice around her face. Had a blockage last night, she says. Smoke near killed us. You nod. That's not uncommon. In some places, the smoke does kill. Quietly. While people sleep. A bad chimney can suffocate a family faster than a plague. You kneel, peer up, and see it. A dark shape, midway up the flue. Too big to be a brush. Too round to be a bird. Your stomach turns. You've seen this before. A boy, stuck. The soot layers are thick, but you see it. A foot curled slightly. A bit of shirt. One arm stretched upward in that same eternal desperate gesture every sweep knows too well. You sit back. The landlady frowns. Well, go on then. You stand slowly. Walk outside. Rain plinks off your cap. The master meets you on the step. What's the holdup? You tell him. He doesn't blink. Still in there? You nod. He mutters a curse. Second this month. He walks inside. You follow. They don't call the police. They don't close the street. They call a bricklayer to open the flue, chip out the body, and, well, that's it. No name, no prayers. You watch from the stairwell. You don't want to, but you can't not. It takes an hour. The boy, what's left of him, is maybe 7. Small, dirt streaked, bones curled inward like the chimney tried to swallow him, and then got bored halfway through. No one cries. The landlady complains about the smell. The master tells you to sweep what's left. You can't. You shake your head. He slaps you. Not hard. Just enough to say, you don't get to say no. You do it anyway. You push the brush up, past the ghost of the boy, past the sorrow stuck between bricks, past whatever part of yourself just broke and won't come back. You do the job, because the chimney still works, and someone still has to clean it. Historians have records of sweet boys found dead in flues, trapped, starved, suffocated. But those are just numbers. You saw one. You touched the same brick he died against. You breathe the same air. Back on the street, the master gives you a halfpenny. Good work, he says. You look at the coin. It's warm from his hand. You don't take it. Instead, you walk. Not far. Just to the alley nearby. where rain runs in rivulets down the brick walls and everything smells like rot and runoff. You sit. Let the rain wash some of the soot away. Not all, never all, just enough that you can feel your skin again. You close your eyes, and for a brief, precious moment, you imagine a chimney with no child inside. Just smoke, rising clean and alone. By the time the sun returns, the soot on your arms has hardened into a kind of second skin. It flakes when you move, cracks when you bend, but it never quite leaves. You think you'd need a week in a bath and a team of determined scrubbers to get clean. And even then, they'd probably give up halfway and sell you to science. Today, you're sent to a school. Not as a student, of course. That would be hilarious. No, the school is old, its fireplace is ancient, and the headmaster wants them swept before the inspectors arrive. You're led through the back entrance by a janitor with a limp and a mop that looks more decorative than useful. The halls echo with distant lessons, Latin conjugations, biblical verse, the occasional yelp of a boy forgetting his declension under the stern gaze of authority. The fireplace is in a classroom that smells like chalk, ink, and ambition. The hearth is wider than usual, built in the Tudor style, with soot dating back to centuries when people still thought bathing made you sick. You begin your climb and immediately regret it. The flue is lined with what you can only describe as educational filth. Layers of soot, paper ash, and something that feels like old chalk dust, but might also be dried pigeon droppings. You don't ask questions. You don't want answers. Halfway up, you spot a message scrawled on the inside of the chimney. Just one word, help. You pause. It's faint, scratched into the brick with something sharp. The soot's filled in the grooves like mascara on a scar. You imagine a boy, maybe not unlike you, stuck here years ago, or hiding, or just desperate to leave a mark. The world outside wouldn't have heard him, but the chimney did. You keep climbing. At the top, there's a nest. Twigs, feathers, a few eggshells long since cracked. The remains of a life that found this flue cozy and forgot it was someone else's workplace. You brush carefully. The soot is dry, quiet. Descending, your boot scrapes the help again. You glance down at it one last time, then slide past like a ghost. Back in the classroom, no one notices you arrive. The teacher drones on, chalk clicking against slate. The boys are dressed neatly, collars stiff, eyes glazed. You cough. Heads turn. The teacher sneers. Sweet boy, try not to track soot on the floor. You try. You fail. Of course you do. They're watching you. These students. These clean, healthy, sleepy-eyed children. They blink at you like you're part of the curriculum. A live demonstration of Victorian squalor. You resist the urge to wave. One boy raises his hand. Sir, why are his hands so black? The teacher sighs. Because he lives in filth, Thomas. You don't respond. Because you're not in the lesson. You're part of it. Historians still argue how class divisions were reinforced in daily life. But you're fairly confident this counts. You, a child, cleaning chimneys in the background, while other children learn about the greatness of the British Empire. You walk past their desks, each one spotless, carved initials hidden under layers of polish. You imagine what your initials would look like if you remembered what they were. Outside, the master waits. How was it? He asks. Educational, you say, and he doesn't get the joke. You trudge on. The next house is newer. Small fireplace, simple flue, a breeze compared to this morning. But your knee gives out halfway up. You grunt, gasp, slide down a few feet before catching yourself. You press your forehead against the brick, heart thudding. You're breaking, not metaphorically. Actually, your body is beginning to mutiny. You've seen it happen in others. First the limp, then the cough, then the shaking hands, and then, one day, they simply stop showing up. No one asks where they went. You descend. The master frowns. You didn't finish. You don't speak. He raises his hand. You flinch, but he lowers it. We'll come back. You exhale slowly. That night, you sit on the curb outside the apprentice lodging, watching the sky attempt stars. London doesn't allow many, just a few pinpricks poking through the smog. Another boy sits beside you. He doesn't speak, just holds out half an apple. You take it. The skin is soft, the flesh mealy, but it's sweet, so sweet it almost hurts. You chew slowly, savoring every bite. Tomorrow will come, but tonight you taste something that didn't come out of a chimney, and that's enough. The city hums differently at night, softer, more secretive. The shouts fade, the hoof beats slow, and for a few precious hours, even the smoke seems tired. But you don't sleep well, because you're dreaming again. This time it's not bricks, it's voices, high, thin, ghost-like ones, calling up chimneys that never end. You're climbing towards something, but it keeps getting further. A face appears in the soot. You recognize it. It's the boy from the tenement. You jolt awake, tangled in your own limbs. Your breath catches in your throat, sharp and metallic. The taste of coal never leaves. The master is already yelling, "You're already up." Today's route leads through an older part of the city, the kind with gas lamps and alleys so narrow, even cats walk sideways. The buildings lean in close, as if whispering secrets to one another. The air is colder here, not quite fog, more like suspicion. The job is routine. 4 flues in a row, 1 per floor. The first is uneventful. Dry soot, friendly bricks, almost pleasant, if you ignore the part where you're slowly becoming part chimney yourself. The second is weirder. You're halfway up when you hear music, faint, echoing. Not a violin, not a piano, a voice. Singing, you freeze. Listen harder. It's coming from somewhere inside the walls. Maybe another room, or another chimney entirely. A lullaby. Old and broken and slightly out of tune. You shiver. Not from cold. The sound fades. You climb faster. At the top, there's nothing unusual, just soot and sky. But the hair on your arms stays raised all the way down. You mention it to another boy later. He shrugs. Heard it once too. Some say it's the ghost of chimney boys what never got out. You laugh, nervously. And others? Others say it's just the pipes. That night, the wind moans through the cracks in the lodging wall, and you wonder how often just the pipes sings lullabies. The third chimney of the day is short. You barely get dirty. You almost enjoy it until you turn around and find a girl staring at you through the parlor door. She can't be more than 6. She points at you. Mama says you live in the chimneys. You blink. I don't live there. She frowns. But you're always in them. You want to explain that it's a job, that you're not some soot-dwelling goblin who haunts fireplaces for fun. But how do you explain labor exploitation to a 6-year-old in velvet slippers? Instead, you say, I come out for lunch. She nods. Do you get tea? You smile faintly. Sometimes you lie. She disappears. You wonder what she'll remember about this moment, if anything. The final chimney of the day is in an apothecary's home, which means something smells funny before you even touch the hearth. You climb anyway. It's slick, unusually so. The soot here has a different feel, softer, finer, like the dust in a bookshop. And then you see it, a vial, glass, wedged into the flue, corked and half melted. Someone must have dropped it during a burn, or hid it there, long ago. You reach for it, out of instinct. Bad idea. The vial cracks. A strange scent escapes. Not terrible. Just odd. Like lavender, but sharper. Like sleep, bottled. You blink, and suddenly you're not sure where you are. Everything is turning. The bricks pulse. Your head swims. You breathe again. Mistake number 2. And the world folds inward. When you wake, you're lying on the parlor rug, face down, coughing black. The apothecary stands over you, looking vaguely interested. Passed out? You nod weakly. Happens, he says. He offers no medicine, only a cup of something hot. You sip it. It's bitter, and possibly just warm water with leaf near it once. Back outside, you lean against the building. The master appears. What happened? Flu was weird. He grunts. You're weird. And walks off. You smile. Just barely. Because after 16 chimneys, a ghost song, a perfume coma, and a conversation with a child who thinks you're mythical, being weird sounds like a compliment. You walk home, one foot, then the other. Still standing. Still climbing. Still not a ghost. Yet, you're limping now. It's not dramatic. Just a quiet kind of unevenness. The kind that creeps in after weeks of overuse and underhealing. Every step sends a whisper of protest up your leg. You ignore it, because that's the rule. You only stop climbing when you're too broken to fit the flu. Today's first stop is a brewery. That sounds promising. Breweries are warm. People are drunk. The chimneys tend to be broad and easygoing, like the customers. But this one's different. For starters, the chimney doesn't vent beer steam. It vents smoke. Thick, oily, industrial smoke from vats of burning grain, or maybe coal, or maybe just old boots. It's hard to tell. The brewmaster greets you with a nod and a smell so aggressive it feels personal. The chimney's been sluggish, he says. Might be blocked with something. Something? You peer in. It's dark. You expected that, but it's also wet. Not dripping. Not damp. Wet. Like someone mopped it with soup. You climb anyway, because what else do you do? The bricks are slick. Not just soot. Grease. Slime. You grip tighter. About 10 feet up, the real problem appears. A blockage. Not soot, not tar. Something soft. You prod it. It wobbles. You prod again. It shifts and reveals a shape. You blink. Is that a leg? It is. A cooked leg. A pig's leg. Someone tried to dispose of a hog's leg by stuffing it into a chimney, which, in terms of problem solving, is impressive and stupid. The leg is wedged at a right angle, wedged between 2 layers of brick. The heat must have cooked it. There's even crackling. You almost laugh. Historians rarely mention chimney meats, but you suspect there's a secret world of flue-based cuisine that deserves its own cookbook. The soot-stained chef. You push the leg free, and it slides down below with a splat. Someone shrieks. You descend. The brewmaster is frowning at the pork, like it betrayed him. Well, he mutters, that explains the smell. You nod, your hands covered in pig grease and disappointment. The second house of the day is nicer. Not much. Just enough that the owner sneers instead of shouts. He's a solicitor. You can tell by the way he uses big words for small insults. Don't track filth, he says, pointing at a rug that probably cost more than your yearly wages. The hearth is carved marble, the flue narrow. You climb slowly. This one's filled with ash so fine it feels like flour. It clings to your eyelashes, sneaks behind your teeth. You breathe shallow. At the top, something glints. You reach for it. It's a coin, shiny, silver, lodged between 2 bricks. Probably dropped down the chimney, maybe by accident, maybe on purpose. People do odd things with coins and superstition. You pocket it. It's not theft. You tell yourself. It's a tip. The third job is quick, uneventful. A straight shot chimney in a bakery. You even get a roll afterward. Stale, but edible. You eat it on the curb, feeling briefly human. Then comes the final job of the day, the one that breaks you. A gentleman's club in Westminster. The master grins. Fancy folk. Behave. You nod. You always behave. The building is huge. Smells like leather chairs, pipe smoke, and male insecurity. The butler shows you to the hearth. We had a sweep last month, he says. He said it was clean. Still smokes. You nod again, already inspecting the flue. You climb. The first 10 feet are simple. Then the bend. Then the narrowing. Then the sound. A strange thump. Not you. Above you. Something moves. You freeze. Then you see it. Eyes. Shining. Small. Beady. A cat. Black. Furious and halfway feral. It hisses, startled, and leaps downward. Into you. There's a flurry of claws, fur shrieks yours, and soot. You flail. Lose grip. Slide. You and the cat exit the hearth together in a shower of soot and indignity. The butler screams. The cat disappears. The master sighs. The fireplace is ruined. So is your dignity. The butler shouts something about filthy children and professionalism. The master apologizes profusely. You're handed a rag. No one asks if you're bleeding. You are. You clean. Because you always do. Outside, the sky is beginning to dim. You press a cloth to the new scratch across your jaw and smile bitterly. You've cleaned soot, grease, bones, rats, and now, apparently, cats. Still breathing. Barely. Still small enough to climb. There's something about the 18th chimney of the week that makes you philosophical. You start asking questions. Not the big sweeping ones. What is life? Why are we here? Those are for clean people, with enough time to think while sipping tea. No, your questions are smaller, grittier. How many bricks are in a chimney exactly? Why does soot itch more when you're tired? What happens to your ears when they're never ever clean? These are the thoughts that fill your soot-dusted brain as you walk to today's first job. It's a private house, modest, middle class, the sort of place where they've got 2 servants and a piano that no one plays. The lady of the house greets you at the door with a stern look and a doily in each hand. I expect no marks, she says, like she's speaking to a mischievous vase. You nod. The fireplace is newer, small, cleanish, almost too clean. You climb, and immediately you know this one's a fake. A decorative flue. You've seen these before. Some houses, eager to seem modern or stylish, add fireplaces where none belong. But they don't connect to anything. They just stop, like a staircase into a wall. You shuffle upward until your head hits brick. Literally. There's a wooden beam just 3 feet up, painted black to look like depth. You descend and explain. The woman is unimpressed. So, you're saying there's nothing to clean? Correct. She squints. But you still charge? You don't answer. The master does. We charge for inspection and risk. She sniffs. Well, risk less next time. The second job of the day takes you across town to a boarding house. The hearth here is clearly active. Warm bricks, soaked in use. The smell hits you before you see it. Smoke, damp wool, and onions. You kneel. Begin the climb. About halfway up, your arm slips between 2 bricks, which would be unremarkable if it hadn't gotten stuck. You pull. Nothing. You twist. Still stuck. The flue is unusually narrow here, and the mortar has crumbled just enough to trap your wrist like a vice. Panic rises. Not dramatic, but urgent. You're wedged. Halfway up. Can't go up. Can't go down. You twist again. Grit your teeth. Feel something scrape your skin. Then, a pop. Freedom. And blood. Your wrist is cut. Nothing deep, but enough to matter. You wrap it in the hem of your shirt and finish the job with your offhand, which is awkward, messy, and exactly the kind of effort no one notices. You descend one handed, favoring the arm that's now decorated in fresh red. Done? The landlady asks. You nod, tired. She frowns. Bit slow. You walk out. The third chimney is taller. It belongs to a printing shop. Ink, paper, smoke, and regret. The flue smells of burnt news and ambition. You climb anyway. And this time, you find something unexpected. A book, wedge shaped, burned around the edges, pages stuck together with ash. You pull it free. It's light, damp. The cover reads, The Boy Chimney Sweep. You blink. Inside, a crude story. Woodcuts. A heroic sweep saving a house from fire. Being knighted by the queen, riding off on a clean white horse. You laugh, quietly. Then you cough, because everything makes you cough now. You pocket the book, not for value, for irony. The final flue of the day is familiar. You've done it before. 3 times, in fact. It belongs to a man who insists on weekly sweeps for good air. He doesn't know how chimneys work. He just likes clean things. You climb anyway. At the top, a nest. Birds again. This time, you leave it. You've started to see things differently. Not softer exactly, but with less urgency. If the nest isn't blocking smoke, why disturb it? Let something else live in peace. You descend. The master doesn't ask questions, just nods. Back at the quarters, you pull the little book from your coat. You flip through it. In the story, the sweep smiles. You wonder if the illustrator had ever met a real one. You set the book aside, and for once, fall asleep without dreaming of soot. The streets are quieter today. Sunday again. The churches toll their bells with sleepy dignity, and people shuffle along in best clothes that smell faintly of mothballs and effort. You watch them pass from your spot on the step, eating a crust of bread that might once have been part of a roll, or perhaps a stone. It's hard to say. No chimney work today, not officially, but the master has other plans. 2 quick jobs, he says, as if jobs are ever quick, or days are ever yours. You don't protest. You just follow. The first house is across the river, near Southwark. You walk through fog so thick it feels like you're inside someone else's coat. Everything smells of damp wood and distant soap. The house is small, clean, a widow's home. She greets you herself. No butler, no cook. Just her, tight bun, tired eyes, hands clasped like they're holding something invisible. Chimney's smoking again, she says. I thought it was fixed. You nod. You kneel. The fireplace is tiny. The flue older than you by at least a century. As you climb, something strange happens. The bricks are warm, not fire warm, sun warm. And they hum, very faintly, a vibration more than a sound. Like the walls are remembering things and trying to tell you. You pause. Listen. Nothing. Then faintly the smell, lavender. You blink. A memory? A hallucination? Or maybe just leftover perfume from the house below. Historians never mention the strange quiet of chimneys. The way they hold echoes. How they seem to know your name if you listen long enough. At the top, no blockage. Just a small bird's feather. Caught on a soot flake like a decoration. You leave it. Back on the ground, the widow smiles faintly. Did you find anything? No, you say, just air. She hands you a biscuit. Homemade, still warm. You eat it slowly, as if your life depends on it. It might. The second job is unexpected. The master pulls you aside. This one's special, he says. You're going alone. Your eyebrows lift. Old customer. Knows you. Said to send the small one. You walk 3 streets over. The house is tall. Narrow. Ivy clings to its side like it's trying to hold it upright. You knock. The door creaks. An old man answers. You recognize him. You swept his chimney 2 years ago. He'd given you a scarf then, a knitted scrap of wool that you wore until it disintegrated. You're taller, he says. You nod. You still fit? Barely. He smiles. Still the best. You set to work. The fireplace is cold. Unused, maybe. But he wants it swept, just in case. So you climb. It's easy. Almost ceremonial. The soot is thin, the walls familiar. At the top, you sit for a moment. Just breathe. No rush. No voice barking from below. Just air. Gray, but yours. You think about the other boys, the ones who didn't climb back down. You think about Captain Wheeze. You think about the girl who thought you lived in chimneys, the teacher who called you filth, the ghost song in the flue. And then you descend. The old man has tea, real tea. He pours you a cup like you're a guest, not labor. Sets out 2 biscuits on a chip saucer. You sip carefully. It burns your tongue. It's perfect. You still climb for him? He asks, meaning the master. You nod. He'll use you till you break. You already know that. Stay small as long as you can, he says. You nod again. Because when you grow, you stop fitting. And when you stop fitting, you stop mattering. You finish the tea. He hands you something wrapped in cloth. You wait until you're around the corner to unwrap it. It's a pair of gloves. Wool, thick, old but warm. You put them on. Your fingers don't ache immediately. You smile. You walk slowly, the city buzzing around you, its chimneys breathing quietly under the gray sky. Just one more day, still walking, still fitting, still climbing. You wake with the strangest feeling. Your bones still ache. Your throat still burns. The cough is very much still there. But something shifted. You're taller. Not a lot. Just enough that the world feels slightly tighter. The brush handle hits your shoulder blade at a different angle. The trousers, already patched 3 times, now hover just above your ankles like they've decided to quit. The master notices before you say anything. He squints. You're filling out. You nod. It isn't a compliment. You know what it means. You're becoming unusable. In the chimney sweep's world, growing up is a liability. Every inch gained is another flue you won't fit, another job you can't do, another reason for the master to sigh and mutter about replacing you with someone smaller, cheaper, less broken. You head out for the day's work anyway. It's reflex now. No orders needed. First stop, a pub. The fireplace is wide enough to swallow a man, but it's clogged halfway up with soot so thick it could be sliced. You climb. Easily, almost gracefully, compared to the early days, but at the top, as you twist to wedge the brush through, your shoulders catch. Not much, just a scrape, but enough. You exhale. Carefully slide the brush out. Adjust. Try again. Still tight. You make it through, but the chimney lets you know your time is almost up. You descend, knees aching in a way that's become too familiar. The master doesn't comment. He just watches. The second job confirms it. A narrow flue. You hesitate at the base. You'll be fine, he says, though his tone is doubtful. You climb. This time your ribs catch. You twist, push. A brick nicks your elbow. Another digs into your thigh. You push harder. Make it, but barely. And the descent, that's the real test. You breathe out. Move slowly, gently, like backing down from a lie. When you touch the hearth again, you're sweating more from fear than exertion. The master says nothing, but his silence is heavy. That night, you sit in the alley with the gloves from the old man. They're the only thing on your body not covered in soot or scars. Another boy sits beside you. He's maybe 6, face like a dish rag, hair like straw dipped in ink. First day, he says. You nod. He looks at your gloves. You rich? You laugh. Not because it's funny, just because it's ridiculous. You offer him half a biscuit. Don't eat soot, you tell him. He looks at you like that's the best advice he's heard in weeks. You watch him go, and you know you'll be replaced soon by him or someone like him. That's how it works. Sweet boys grow up, then they're gone. Some become journeymen, some beg, some vanish. You don't know which one you'll be. You just know your shoulders don't fit like they used to. That night, as you lie on your straw bed, you look at the ceiling and try to imagine what life feels like without soot in your hair, without coughing blood into your sleeve, without waiting to be told you're too big, too slow, too much. You imagine clean sheets, warm bread, someone calling your name not because they want work done, but because they remembered it. You don't fall asleep easily, but eventually you do. And when you dream, it's not of chimneys, it's of sky, wide blue open sky, and a breeze that smells like nothing at all. And now, the soot settles, the chimneys grow quiet, the fires go out, and the boys who climbed through darkness to keep others warm drift into dreams they never had time to finish. You're lying there now, not on straw or stone, but something softer, something forgiving, the weight of the day slowly slipping off your shoulders. Ashes, aches, and all. Breathe in, let the smoke clear. Let the bricks fade away. Outside, the night hums gently. Maybe there's a fan spinning in the corner, or rain tapping lightly against the glass. Let it be your lullaby. No soot, no master, just this moment. You are not stuck in a chimney. You are not climbing. You are here, and you are safe. The cold, rough world of Victorian rooftops, ghost stories and flues, and blistered hands can wait. Right now, there's only this stillness, this soft hush, this slow exhale of a life that asked too much, and a heart that kept going anyway. So rest your hands, rest your eyes. Even the smallest sweep deserves the biggest dreams. You made it, and that's enough. Sleep well, soot brush soul. Sleep well. End of script. Sweet dreams.